Hi, friends. This is the Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust podcast, where we will talk about all things Jesus and, I bet you guessed it, Disney. Together, we'll discover how the whole world of Disney can point us to the creativity, joy, and love of God, and why Disney can be a part of your family's legacy for years and years to come. For our family, God often shows up and reveals new things about himself to us through the Disney movies we watch on a Friday movie night, trips we take to Disney World together, and just in normal everyday conversations about life. And I know he can do the same for you. No matter where you are at in your faith journey, you've got a friend in me here at Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust. Now, for today's episode. Hey friends, and welcome to a very special two-part series of the Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust podcast. I know it's been a while since we've released an episode to you, but I promise this one is well worth the wait. By now, the live-action Little Mermaid is available pretty much everywhere. In fact, it just dropped to Disney Plus this week, so what a perfect time to release our episode about this wonderful and beautiful movie. I've split this episode into two parts because really, there was just so many things to discuss and unpack. My guest, Becca Richardson, is one of my favorite human beings on this planet. She is a fiercely faithful friend of ours, and we love her so much. You'll hear the story of how her and I ended up crying at this movie together when we walked to it in theaters and why it just means so much to us. So here is part one of my conversation with Becca about The Little Mermaid. Okay. I got this. I got this. Well, welcome, Becca, to the Faith Stuff and Pixie Dust podcast.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
You're the first guest we've had. This is the first. I love it so much. This is the first episode we're recording. So, you know,
who knows what order it'll appear in?
Who really knows what will happen? But Mitchell and I haven't been able to get our stuff together. But that's neither here nor there. So, I want you to share what you said to me in our text message when I asked you to come on. You said something really funny about like this not being on your 2023 bingo card.
Oh, yes. I said being on a Disney podcast was not on my 2023 bingo card. I would never have guessed that that's what I would be doing in the year of our Lord 2023. But you know, like not because like we've talked about this, right? Like you are a Disney hype girl and I love that about you. But like I'm not. I just am also
right. Yeah.
I don't think Disney has the market cornered on like childhood happiness.
I'm working on you. I'm working on it.
This movie, but this is bringing me back.
Brought you back. I love to hear that.
We'll talk more about that. But they made the appropriate changes that like anyway.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions I was going to ask you. I was like, oh, you need to share because you said that walking out of the theater. You said, oh, and I was like, we got her. She's coming back in. She's coming back into the Disney world.
Yeah, you kind of did.
Okay, so before I'm starting every episode, it's up to you if you want to wear them. I'm, of course, wearing my Little Mermaid ears with the King Triton. I got to bring these to show Ariel when we were at Disney.
Did you cry?
I didn't, shed tears. I definitely had, tears in my eyes. And I told Mal this. I was starstruck. Don't even remember what I said. She came over. And she was just so real, both to Joelle and to me, that I was just like, I don't even remember what I said to her. I was going to have her sign my ears. And she was like, oh, your ears are so beautiful. You have your own trident. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she said, you got to be careful with that. It's very powerful. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I will be. It was so funny. I think Mitchell recorded our whole, walking up to her and doing the whole thing. But anyway, so you can pick your own ears to wear, or you can just pick your favorite. I was planning on having guests pick their ears and share why they picked them. But there are a lot to choose from. But you can wear them if you want to be in festive spirit.
You pick for me.
Oh, I'll pick for you. Oh, goodness. Okay. Okay.
I'm going to mix it up. I'm breaking your rules out of the gate.
Breaking my rules out of the gate. You know what? At this point, there aren't rules, right? Are there rules at this point? No, they're not rules at this point. I'm going to pick these ones. They're brand new. They are the day and night park here. So they have all 4 parks on them. This side's day because it's the gold on black. Yeah. And this side is the black on gold.
I love
it. Little play on day night.
It's nighttime.
It's nighttime, so it's on nighttime. The bow is reversible. I mean,
I actually am very impressed by your collection.
I'm a details girl. I mean, honestly, like it's gotten a little excessive.
I don't think I realized you had this many ears.
Well, I mean, I didn't used to. It's just in the last couple of months that like it's.
Am I seeing 16 pair of ears?
Did
I count correctly?
That's neither here nor there. Let's get into it. It might be close to that, and we're not going to talk about Joelle's display in her room. She has her own ears. But some of them
you just embrace it.
Some of them were gifts. Like, I didn't buy them all. I think maybe one of them was a gift.
Let's pause. Even if you bought every single pair of these ears, that is okay.
That is okay.
It's okay.
That's my thing. It's my thing.
Yeah. It's okay to have a thing.
That's my thing.
There should be no shame in that.
My Disney ears. Yeah. So...
Isn't that Little Mermaid, right? We're not having shame about who we are.
Right. See, you know what? I just need to channel my inner Ariel. That's right.
Like...
So, yeah. We saw The Little Mermaid together.
We did.
For the first time.
Very spur of the moment.
Very spur of the moment, which is just, like, hilariously ridiculous how that all came about. How, like, the fact that, like, we went so late. We had, like, contraband beverages in my purse. Like, the whole thing was just really funny. But it was really sweet. I honestly wasn't sure. I was like, I really hope she's into this because I'm really into this. And I look over and like, you're like full on crying. And I'm like, oh,
I think I ugly cried through more of that movie.
She's feeling something.
Yeah.
She's feeling something. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Also did not anticipate ugly crying through the movie. Well, like in the best way, but like.
Was not prepared.
Was not prepared.
I was not prepared. I came home. Mitchell and I just saw it the other night. I made him go. And it really wasn't a chore for him, I don't think. I think it was fun. He enjoyed it, I hope. But anyway, I know I needed to go because I knew we were going to talk about it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just taking notes the whole time. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about how this is basically a parenting movie now because like King Triton's whole journey, it's basically a parenting movie. I'm like, you watch it as a kid and it's like, oh, this is a romance. And I'm like, no, this is like, I mean, it is.
But also a problematic romance, the OG version.
Yeah.
Which, I'm just going to say it out loud right now at the start, which is part of why, like, I love Disney movies, but also just as someone who worked with, like, middle school and high school girls and taught middle school and high school, like, there are just some problematic themes in Disney princess movies.
Yes.
Like, the OGs
yeah.
for sure. That is part of why I was just like, I mean, not just for girls, but for guys, too.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Definitely. Well, they definitely like redeemed some of that in my mind.
Definitely did.
You talked about at the beginning how you're not a super like big Disney person. Like you don't have your own ear wall at home that I know of.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't know many people that have an ear wall. Not in a bad way.
Fair.
I just...
Fair enough. What was your experience with Disney growing up? Like, did you watch Disney movies a lot? Did you go to Disney?
Absolutely.
Like, what did you think? What do you feel about Disney, like, in your childhood up until this point? Like,
sure. Okay, so growing up, like, obviously we watched Disney movies and, like...
Did you like them when you were a kid?
I did like them. I never found them really scary. I think the scariest one is Sleeping Beauty with the crazy colored flames and
it's
Maleficent.
Terrifying.
And
it's, like, straight up terrifying.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Mitchell didn't watch it as a kid, and I was talking to him about it, and he's like, what kind of movie is this?
That's awful.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a small child. So yeah, I mean, like I definitely grew up watching Disney and enjoying it. And my grandma would take us when we'd be in Texas to see movies if they were out. So I enjoyed them. And then as I got older and like kind of started seeing themes in them, I was like, oh man, like,
ooh.
oh, like why are all these girls so like weak? They're like a limp handshake. Like I don't know how else to say
like
it.
A limp handshake.
Yeah,
I like that.
like they're just
like come on, find your grit.
Like just like you can't do anything for yourself. Like
are we thinking here?
Like somebody has to save you. Help me understand what's happening.
Yes.
And also is that all love is? Like needing to be rescued, but there's no like...
Is that all life is?
Right. It's just a lot of questions as I got older and just kind of started thinking about life and things and relationships. Yes. And then I started volunteering with like youth and, you know, doing like younger kids at doing stuff with younger kids at church, like teaching different classes. And then I taught middle school and high school. And I just really started paying attention to themes of things and what kids absorb and what people absorb based on what they read and why or watch.
Yes.
And why variety is important and why representation is important.
Yes.
And why
say it again.
Representation matters. I'm not a singer, but I'll sing it for you. Representation matters.
Yes.
Not just for you to see yourself, but for you to see other people.
Yes, other things.
And other things. And I think it's important, like, I'm a boy mom. I think it's really important for my boys to see strong women and to see that they can partner with them and not need to save them or be domineering.
Mitchell's saying, you're preaching here, yes!
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's important. Like,
yeah.
And I think, like, that's why we've had some really weird relational things over generations with, like, parents and family dynamics. Like, I just don't think that that's real life.
The norms that people are, or that kids are observing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying, like, you know, women don't ever want help from men. That is not what I'm saying at all either. I'm just saying, like,
we're capable of more than what was portrayed.
We are capable of more than being a damsel in distress.
Yes.
That has nothing to offer other than a pretty face and a pretty voice.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the movie we just saw.
Right.
Like, first of all, I just want to brag on Halle Bailey. She blew me away.
She did.
Like, when I saw pictures of her, like, in the casting announcements and stuff, I knew, like, I was like, oh, I have a feeling it's going to be good because she can sing, y'all.
Yes.
Like, she can sing. We talked about that. Like, she actually, like, has a voice and, like, training.
I feel like that's what has been missing from other live action versions. And actually why I have not seen some of them because I'm just like, I've seen the previews and I'm like, oh, that ain't it, y'all.
Yeah.
Like.
But the casting, I felt like this, like, at least for me, I felt like the casting in this movie, like, I bought into every character. I was like, yes. Especially when I saw their performances, I was like, yes, I buy you as Ariel. You are, like, she blew me away. And even Eric, like, he got some, like, there was some, like, really heavy criticism on him. I liked him as Eric.
Oh, I didn't know there was heavy criticism on him.
I don't know
that makes
why.
me sad.
I don't know why. Like, thinking, like, oh, I didn't really buy him. And I'm like, I thought he was great. But I have rose-colored glasses because I think everything about the movie was great.
I don't have rose-colored glasses about Disney or the movie. Like, I don't. Yeah. Like, I just thought he was great. And I really liked his backstory and how they brought it in. And what I appreciated was that it wasn't, like, one, it was musically so tight and sound.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't, like, I think, like, we talked a little bit about Beauty and the Beast and how, like, the acting was good, but the singing was lacking.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one married the music and the vocal talent with the acting talent beautifully.
Yeah, totally.
Like, Halle's not just a pretty voice. She was a beautifully deep actress within the film also.
Yes.
Which is also crazy when you consider how much of it was, like, green screened.
Right. Like
wild.
How much they had to do, like, the behind the scenes of, like, having, like, how they, like, got them to swim. I'm like, she's doing, like, physically challenging things while also, like, keeping her face looking nice. Like, just all the things she had to do for that role. I was like,
I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. We're talking about it. If people are listening, then they know.
Spoiler. Like, we're going to talk about everything. So if you have not seen the movie, like, just wait until after you've seen this to listen.
Correct.
Okay, now we can say whatever we want.
Okay, so I was watching a video of her recording, where she's sitting on the sea turtles.
Yeah.
That was a person crawling on the ground. She was sitting on a person in a green suit who was bopping along in the ground.
That's one of my favorite parts of that song is when she's like,
yes. And
oh my gosh.
Just,
that's
like,
hilarious.
I can't get that image out of my head. Like,
that is so funny.
Compared to, like, what the actual movie was. It's real movie magic.
It is. That's so funny. I guess they filmed somewhere in Italy, which, like, the backdrop of the movie.
That makes sense.
I'm like, I want to go there. Like, I have a hard time not, like, wanting to go anywhere else besides Disney World. But I'm like, I would go there and see where they filmed. Like, the high cliffs and, like, the water. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. So when we went to meet Ariel, they had a screen, and it was, like, the backdrop of, like, the Italian beach waters and like his castle, and it was just, oh, I have stars in my eyes just thinking about it. It was great. It was so great. So did you notice? I think I leaned over to you when the original Jodie Benson had the dingle hopper, and she said, "You're gonna need this." Okay, I don't. Who was I talking to? I was talking to someone, and they totally missed that. But I'm like, it was the passing of the torch because she handed her the dingle hopper and said, like, "You're gonna need this." And Ariel takes the dingle hopper from the original Ariel. I'm like, isn't that so sweet?
It was very symbolic. Also, let's pause. She has been so kind in fostering, handing this role over.
Yes.
And she doesn't have to be.
Right.
And I'm just thankful for that.
Everything I've seen has been like, you know, like even on the red carpet for like the premiere, like she was embracing him, like and very encouraging. Like everything she said has been very encouraging. She hasn't said anything like they had to redo
It's my role.
It's my movie. You know, whatever. She hasn't been anything like that. She's just been really, really classy about it. I think she's been really classy. So the music has been playing nonstop in our house. Joelle loves the Scuttlebutt. Have you showed your boys music yet?
I haven't. No, I have not.
The Scuttlebutt is so funny.
Mostly because we're having an issue with saying "but" so much currently without there being a song. So I need to get that under control first.
That's actually smart. Yeah, maybe that's why Joelle's been saying it a lot.
Yeah, man.
But I just thought like the score was so nostalgic, like with the original. But one of my favorite songs was Eric's song, his like Wild Uncharted Waters song.
Oh, the new one, yeah.
Yes. So I was telling Mitchell this. I was like, I love how they made his voice sound like they didn't make it sound perfect. You know what I mean?
No.
Like he's a good singer, but like they let him sound a little like desperate and lovesick and like, you know what I mean? Like he was a little bit like entranced. And I'm like, I love that they like let him like just sound like a sailor singing about his love instead of like letting it be like perfect. And I don't know.
But don't we think that's on vocal training also? It reminded a lot of it reminded me of theater, like live.
Yes,
like live theater.
Yes. Like you were feeling, like you didn't just execute the song singing it, like you added a lot of feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes the feeling makes it a little less perfect.
Well, and I think the theater nerd in me loved that. Like loves that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I love when a performance is like full and rich and not just like they killed it acting or like they can sing, but like, oh, their acting is just not great.
Yeah. But they sounded good.
They sounded great, but the music isn't great. Like, I don't know. I just feel like this was the whole package. And I don't have rose-colored glasses, so if I'm saying it's the whole package, it was really good.
If she's saying it, y'all, like, it's not just me, the biased, like, will love anything.
No, I don't just talk things up.
Yeah, right. But, like, the song, like, Joelle loves the song, too, because she loves that, like, that little, like, sweet nod to Ariel's, so she likes that part, but I like the song. It's like, he's like, I was darkness bound. What does he say? I'd almost drowned till you came around and you found me. I'm like, that reminds me of my life without the Lord.
Right.
Like, I'm like, oh. So maybe that's part of why the song hits so deep is like, obviously it's so good for the movie and it fits and like the way that he did it. But I'm also like, this song, like the lyrics in the song, I'm like, who is writing these new Disney songs that they are so deep? It's Lin-Manuel Miranda, but.
Who is also an incredible lyricist.
Right.
But also, I think like when you are walking with Jesus, you see things through a different lens. Like you filter things differently.
Right, totally.
And so like, I think sometimes like, especially in the American church, we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because like one thing isn't exactly how it's supposed to be. Instead of acknowledging like, but there's this beautiful truth in here.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a beautiful truth. And like, maybe it's not coming from Jesus, but like they're missing the Jesus piece of it. But I have the Jesus piece of it.
Right. So I see like, that and I can pull it out.
So I can see it and I can pull the diamond out of the rough and like, you know what I mean? Like polish it up and help show people that.
Yeah.
I think we do that a lot with pop culture, but also just with Disney. Like,
which is exactly why I started the podcast, honestly, because I'm like, I didn't want to just throw out all of Disney because it wasn't Christian, or
Right.
it wasn't like we don't know. Like obviously they don't speak Jesus and whatever, doing any they're not openly Christian. They're not openly anything. Which I'm not saying they should be. But to just say like, okay, therefore we're not going to be a part of it. I'm like, Disney is too big of a thing. Like, and we enjoy it too much to just be like, it's separate. Like we have to like, and to me, it's like, it's like, I don't know if that's everybody, but like, it's pretty easy. Like to be like, oh, this song. Yeah. That's what it feels like to be without the Lord. I'm like, yeah, that might be really cheesy, but it's also true. Like, it's also really true.
Right.
So to say like we can have, it doesn't need to be all or nothing, you know, like you said, you don't need to throw it all out and say, oh, it's not Christian.
Well, but we also can't just be in our holy huddle.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we are called to love the world. I just,
Yeah.
and maybe that's on, I grew up when people were burning Disney tapes and secular music and I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
just
people are doing crazy things these days.
They are.
But
it never has fully gone away, but I'm just not here for shame associated with things that aren't claiming to be Christian to begin with.
Right.
I mean,
because like you said, when you have Jesus, you see him.
Right.
And I even said in the intro to the podcast, like Jesus will often use the things we're really passionate about to reveal himself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily always need to be something like directly from him. Like he will reveal himself in those, like the word
Right.
and those things, and those are important. But like when you're passionate about something, like you think that's an accident,
Right.
you know, or you think that's not given from him. Like, you know, you think it's not given from him. Like it could be. It could be like how he's wanting to use you. Like the fact that we love Disney so much, like, and want to talk about it, but are also Christians. Like, why wouldn't I think that's from him? You know what I mean?
And why wouldn't you marry the two?
Right.
Why would you try to like compartmentalize or section it off?
Yeah.
But I think like the same is true with parenting, right? Like we parent in the real world minute by minute.
Right.
With what our kids see and hear.
Yeah.
And I don't show my kids things that I haven't watched personally. This is just a personal choice we've made. We have young kids. They're not even 6 yet. But like when I'm watching something with them, we talk about it like, oh, was that kind? Like,
right. Like,
oh, that was not a nice reaction. Like,
using it as like a teaching moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think that person is angry? But like, I do the same out in real life at the grocery store. I mean,
yeah.
I don't separate my faith from any other area. So why would you separate it
right. Totally.
from this thing that you love?
Totally. Totally. So when I'm listening to the soundtrack, I'm like hearing all these things. Like that's part of like what makes it so emotional. It's like you listen to the Eric song about being lost and down and out and then someone finding him. And then the other part that really got me was like, was one of the reprises of Part of Your World when she's like down and out, like Eric had just been tricked. You know what I remember when she's like laying on the rock?
Oh, yes.
And like has left the palace and like thinks it's all over.
Yes.
And she says, what is the line? She says, risking
She's thinking it all.
She's thinking it because she can't speak. She lost her voice, which again.
I actually loved that we got to hear her thoughts.
Yes, that was so cool.
Like
how
that
they did
added such a depth to her character.
She wasn't
I feel
just like, I mean, she was acting non-verbally very well, but like it added just having to just like watch.
Right.
You know, you pair that with like the animated where it's like the animated was great at the time, but like you didn't know what she was thinking and it was just really cool how they did that. But she thinks a line and it's like risking it all only to fall back where I started. And she says like, what did I give to live where you are? Basically saying like, I gave up everything. Like, was like for what I thought I wanted. And I'm just thinking like, have I ever done that? Like risked everything only to end up back where I started. You know what I mean?
Or not even everything, just something really important.
Yeah.
Like
her voice.
Yeah.
Like
it could also just be a friendship for another friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of times I did that in middle school and high school where like I had a really good friend, but like the draw of this other thing.
Yes. What you thought you wanted. Like the grass is greener, but it's actually not. Yeah. Totally. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, we alluded to it, but I want to dig into it. The parenting moments and King Triton.
Yes.
Was, I think, obviously because I'm a parent now and I'm watching it from that perspective, but like, we got home from the first time I saw it and I'm like, Mitchell, this was a parenting movie because it took me on a ride. Like, they just, I don't know. They just really killed me. Like, what, like, I would love to hear what you thought of, like, overall, the execution of the role of King Triton. Like, was it what you expected him to be? Like, how do you think they handled his role specifically?
Okay, so out of the gate, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this casting.
Yeah.
Just like full transparency. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. Like,
You didn't know what you...
I didn't know what I was going to think about it. I just wasn't sure. But I actually really loved the character development of him also, and his relationship with Ariel, who in this version is much younger than her sisters.
Right.
Like,
she's a little, like, he calls her, like, you're my little one or something.
Right. And they refer to her as, like, being a teenager, like being, you know, oh, you remember that age.
Yeah. Like, you're little. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. There was an age gap.
Almost like talking down a little bit, like that. Like, oh, you know.
She's young and naive.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like how parents do it to kids too. Like,
you're too young to understand.
You're too young to understand. Or like, you think it's a big deal now, but it's not. But like, it's just as somebody who has taught and done a lot of youth, it's a really big deal to kids where they are.
Well, that's their reality.
You understand that there is so much more, but their reality is so...
Yeah.
Like insular to their day-to-day life.
Right.
That like the things that are a really big deal to them are a really big deal to them.
Well, and they don't have enough hindsight.
No.
Right?
Their brain isn't fully developed. Good grief.
Like they can't look back and compare and be like, oh yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like they just don't have like developmentally, nothing, not even their own fault.
No,
but like
so the things that
developmentally,
are
like it's a big deal because it is a big deal.
Because it is a big deal to them, and that's okay. It's okay for things that aren't as big of a deal to you to be a big deal to your kids or to your teens or whoever. Like it's okay, and we don't have to be patronizing about it.
Yeah. So to Ariel, the life on land was like, she was fascinated and it was a big deal. And her sisters were like, oh.
I think also this speaks to like when you cut something, this is absolutely off limits, this hard and fast line without any discussion about why.
Yeah.
Because we don't even learn until much later in the movie why they're not supposed to go to the surface and why.
And why it's such a big deal to him.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I loved that they, like, because I don't really think you really, did you catch that in the animated? I didn't. For a long time, I didn't know, like, what happened to her mom. So I love that they,
is it in the animated?
I don't think it is.
She's just not there.
I think it's like if you were like me and you looked things up about Disney movies in your free time, maybe you would know that. Yeah. But I don't think they even, like, allude to it at all. It's just like she's just not there. One of the things that stuck out to me, and this is I think this is one of the parts where I like audibly sobbed, was when he said to Sebastian, he said, I've done everything in my power to make her happy, but she wants a different life than what I had planned for her. Mm-hmm. And he says, I won't be able to protect her anymore. Yeah. Like, what a word for parents. Like, she wants a different life than what I've planned for her. I'm like, what parent doesn't want their kid to be happy?
Right.
But ultimately, like, he has this revelation of like.
But I think we also parent with this false sense of like, we can determine where our kids are going to end up.
We can decide.
That we can decide what their trajectory is. Mm-hmm. And like, maybe we have an idea, but also at the end of the day, like, I don't know where my boys are going to end up.
Right.
I know the things they're passionate about right now, and we can help foster that, but I don't know.
But also, if we tell them where to end up and, like, they need to, like life throws a curveball at them or they need to adapt, they won't know how to do that because they haven't been given the freedom to think for themselves or to hear Holy Spirit's voice and, like, where he's guiding them. And, like, it was just like a, you know, even though she's little, she's 3, it was a reminder to be like, oh, I need to prioritize teaching her how to hear from him, hear from the Lord about where her life is supposed to go or what she's supposed to do or where she's supposed to lean in. Like, I need to be encouraging that now and as she grows, like as she gets older, obviously. Because obviously she can't decide where she wants to go now because she's little. Like, she doesn't know what's safe and what's not safe. But as she grows, that's just a really good reminder to be like, wow, I can't just tell her or like dictate where her life goes. I need to teach her how to hear. Right. And how to listen and how to obey and how to be brave to when he asks you to do something that's scary. And, you know, and so I just really felt, right? And in that moment of like, I won't be able to protect her. Like he lost his wife to a human and he was just scared of not being able to protect Ariel anymore. So that like anger and that control, like at the root of it is just fear.
But take that even a step further, right? So he lost his wife to a human.
And she wanted to be a human.
And she wanted to be with the humans.
Right.
But also that tainted his eyes and his whole perception of an entire group of people.
Right.
Or of an entire different
world.
Yep. Or an entire different community, if you will, than what his ocean community was.
Right.
And so I think like we can have one bad experience
and
label an entire group of people or an entire group something. And we could potentially, like, had Ariel not been headstrong and had she not interacted with Eric and gone to the surface and, you know, disobeyed. So we'll just, I mean, yes, she disobeyed. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Right. Let's call it out.
It is what it is. Also, like, kids obey. Also, I was a very compliant child and I definitely lied and disobeyed. So, like, any parents listening, like, your kids aren't perfect. All children lie. All children disobey occasionally, just so we get that out.
Right.
Like, right now.
Let's just pray that they don't make any deals with a sea witch or something.
Or the devil. I don't know.
Which, you know, like, yeah.
You know. But that struck me too. Like, how he drew this really hard and fast line and wouldn't even speak about people or what happened or acknowledge that, like, you know, one bad apple or one bad experience doesn't speak for an entire other group of people.
Totally.
And I think that there is some beauty in Ariel questioning him. Because at one point, there's a really poignant scene where she's like, but do you know them?
Yeah, you don't even know them.
But you don't even know.
Yeah.
And that spoke to me. I was like, oh, how often... Like, do I parent essentially from a place of fear, or how often do we parent from a place of fear? And I think we see it in the church a lot, right? Where people are like parenting from that place of fear.
Because they're scared of it, or they don't understand, or
they think their kids can't handle it, or, and I don't know. I would rather talk about it and work through it with my kids in real time than come out swinging really hard.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes when we come out...
not giving them a reason.
And not giving them a reason. Like, and I think sometimes we don't give reasons because we don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have one.
Right.
In which case, like, let's reevaluate why
figure out, why do we feel so strongly about this?
Right. Or why is that my hard and fast line? Yeah. Like, does it really need to be a hard and fast line?
Right.
Or...
And if it does, okay. But if it doesn't, like, being okay with going back to your kids and you know, you've taught me a lot about being honest with your kids, like in a developmentally appropriate way, obviously, but just being honest with your kids, like being real and like talking about things and not just saying this is what it is because and leaving it at that. And because you saw what we saw what happened, like this happened. This is true in the original too. Like he just drew that line and like almost like put up a wall and wasn't even going to discuss it. And he lost Ariel in the process.
Right.
Like, what did she go? Like now that was her own disobedience and her own choice too. But it's like a reminder of like, oh, like it drives a wedge and it drives distance where like your kid or Ariel in this case didn't feel like she could talk to her dad about because he wasn't listening.
Right. Walls create breaks in relationships, period.
Right.
Like when you are unwilling to discuss something or you're not united on something. And I think like, especially within a family, like, yes, you and your spouse, your partner, your husband, whoever make choices for your family and you make decisions for ways that your family functions or doesn't function or draws boundaries. But you have to communicate that to your kids also because otherwise you're just asking for them to do something that they don't necessarily, like when they're asking why, it's not necessarily out of obedience. Like sometimes they really just
they want to understand.
They just want to understand why. And sure, sometimes you can't give them an explanation, but like I'd rather keep the doors open and the communication flowing. I don't know. Also, I have had opinions change.
Right.
Like,
change your mind because like,
and I've been convicted about things that I
because you're
have
learning.
thought or lines that I have drawn in the sand, and God is like, hey.
That's actually coming from a trauma response. Let's deal with
That's
it.
a trauma response. Or like, that
Yeah.
feels really judgmental.
Right.
And like, let's
like changing your mind.
right.
As a
And then I've
parent.
had to like Jesus in therapy unpack
Yeah.
why I feel judgmental about something, or why I feel a certain way about something, or like why I've created this boundary that I think is actually protection, but is actually like
rooted in
hindering
fear.
and stifling.
Yeah. I felt that a lot. Like, so I related to King Triton too, like in that when he lost his wife, like losing my dad, like I was like, it's so surprising to me, like how grief just is like, it's not linear. And like, you'll like go to random things like like the freaking Little Mermaid movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and stuff touches it all the time. It happens all the time. But anyway, like when he just wants to control so hard just to protect, I remember feeling that. I like after my dad died, I remember feeling that all the time. Like I just wish we could live in a bubble. I just want to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
And my whole like job, that's why like I had to get into like really, really intense there because I literally ran myself into the ground trying to control everything and keep everybody safe and do this and do that and do this and do that. And I thought I was through it. And then I had Joelle, and it was a whole nother level too, because it's like now I have a baby and I have to protect her. And so that thing came up, and the Lord really had to deal with me on this and be like, you know what, babe, you need to understand like who's really like in control here. Like you could do all the right things and life still happens.
Right.
You know? And like then what are you gonna do? Just try harder? You know? And like you have a limit, you know? And also, like, this isn't the point. Like, that, like he, you know, so kindly says, like, this isn't what I have for you. Like, you need to just like let her go. Like, let go. Let go of that need to like try and control because honestly, you can't anyway. But I was like, oh, I'm trying. I feel you because you want to keep everyone safe because of what happened. But that's trauma, right? Like, that's trauma. That's what it is.
Well, and also protection is just the illusion of control.
Right. Yes.
Like.
Yes.
It's the illusion of controlling a situation.
Yeah. And I mean, especially like in the season 2 that we had, Joelle was right before, like she was born right before COVID. So then I'm like, really, Lord, you're letting me have my first baby in the middle of a pandemic? And he's like, exactly. Like I remember him being like, this is no accident. Like, I'm not surprised that you had your baby right before this. Like, of course, like we need to deal with this because like, you thinking that you just like, you know, we obviously like want to do our best and steward the best we can, but like you can't scrub your groceries for 45 minutes every time you get them for the sake of like she's going to get some sort of germ. I'm like, of course she is. Yeah. You know, it was just this like really like tangible lesson. It was really hard. Yeah. And the Little Mermaid touched it again. I mean, and I'm like, yes, it's just a that's like, you know, Lord willing, that won't be a trigger all the time, but it's just a constant thing that like I'm reminded, like, oh, yep, gotta give that over. Oh, yep, gotta give that over. Oh, yep, gotta give that over. It's just that's just my thing. That's just my thing. Like that, I'm like that. It's my area of surrender, daily surrender. It's like of like, okay, you can't control everything. You know, you want to do your best to protect your kids, but like, yes, a part of that is our job. Sure. But you can't protect them from everything. Yeah. And should we? Yeah. You learn a lot. Like, there are certain things we should protect them from, obvious dangers, but like, everything? Yeah. Like everything? There's like a line in, this is totally off topic. Not really, it's what we're talking about, but it's a different movie. It's in Finding Nemo, which is another Disney movie. Shout out. But Nemo says, or Marlin, Nemo's dad says, oh, like he's just feeling so downcast because he thinks Nemo's dead. And he goes, I promised I'd never let anything happen to him. And Dory goes, huh, that's a funny thing to promise. And he goes, what do you mean? And he says, because if nothing ever happened to him, nothing, like she said, if you don't let anything happen to him, nothing good would ever happen to him. Basically being like, if nothing happens to our kids, they like nothing good will happen to them. Yeah. Or they won't learn how to recover from bad things happening to them. So anyway, I digress.
Hard facts. Well, okay, so I will take Triton in a different direction.
Yeah,
so I grew up with a dad who was really controlling and like just wanted us to be home, but not because we were going to do anything. He just thought we needed to just be at our house.
You just wanted it that way?
He just wanted it that way because that's how it had always been. And kids are supposed to be at home. And it was just hard. Like, it's hard to grow up in a home where there are so many expectations and you don't feel like you can ever hit them all. So, like, kind of why try? Now, I am an overachieving type A person. So, like, I'm going to do my best. But also, like, it's hard, you know?
Because you never can make the mark.
You can never hit the mark. And, like, also, like, I love my dad, but our relationship is not as strong as it could be.
Right.
Because there's not full disclosure or there's not full transparency.
Yeah.
And it, like, I think that's part of why I liked The Little Mermaid growing up. Like, I could relate to Ariel, like just wanting to have fun. Like, I just want to go see what's up there. Or like, I have my little cave of all these trinkets that I love.
These contraband human things I'm not supposed to have.
Contraband human things that I'm not supposed to have, but that are so encouraging and like comforting to me. But I have a parent who won't see me for me or like the things that I love or like the
doesn't
things.
know you, really.
Doesn't know me or like I'm having to present one way when I show up or I'm late. And then all they're seeing is I'm late, but not knowing why I'm late or I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. Like they see what's on the surface, but they don't know the depths of you. Like, you know, or like, Becca's late. Why? Maybe I should ask why. Is everything okay? How, you know, whatever.
I don't know. That's just an example of it.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
For me, I feel like the new This Little Mermaid was really, it was just such a good reminder of me that like we have to honor our kids for who they are.
Not for who we want them to be.
Not for who we want them to be or like who we think they should be.
Right.
Or who our parents think they should be or who their friends or society like.
Or the church.
Like God has made them who they are.
Yeah.
And like, yes, nurture and yes, what we expose them to 100% matters. But like kids also just have natural bends and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if we were all the same, how boring would that be?
Right.
Like just how boring would that be?
Well, God's so creative, you know?
Right.
Like you see that with like, you know, people were saying that with like, you know, how to talk to kids about race. And you can use that to talk to kids about anything. Like God made everybody different in so many ways. Yeah, we look different, we think different, we act different, we dress different, we like different things. Like we're so different. Like you find people who have common interests and things, but like we're so different on so many levels. And like life is about like being curious about other people and like wanting to know them and wanting to get to know them, not judging them, you know?
Right. And if we're all created in God's image, then these things that are natural, like passions and desires that God has given us
are all good.
They're good things from the Lord.
Yeah.
Now, granted, can we take them and use them
for bad?
Like for his honor or not? Sure, absolutely. But I just think to shut things down or just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was very,
what's the line?
It was so just like, felt like a warm hug at the end. Like when he made a change, and I think because as a parent, I know how hard it is to make a change that you are like.
That hurts you.
And like, and a release that you're not ready for. Like I'm about to send the kids to kindergarten in person at their public school.
I thought about you so much.
And
I thought about you so much in that part.
I know.
I'm like, she's feeling all the things right now.
Right. And it is a releasing of them to school with other people. And that's hard. And
because you don't know what those other people are saying or doing or
right. Yeah. And I mean, for a myriad of reasons, I would like them to be home. but also because I like my kids and I like spending time with them. But I also know like we're doing the right thing sending them, and I feel very confident in our choice. But it's not still difficult.
Yeah, it's hard.
There's not still difficulty in releasing your kids. And isn't that parenting, right? Like a continual
that's
releasing.
the point, right?
Like it's this continual releasing, like tiny micro releases daily
Like when
until they fly the coop.
Like when they get to be independent and they're like, oh, like I'm releasing her to do that on her own, and I'm releasing them to do that on their own.
Or my kids with their training knives at the table tonight, cutting their own meat, and
you're like releasing them with a knife.
Right. And I mean, it's like a nylon knife. It's safe, but like I'm releasing, like that's a little micro release, right? Like that's one more little march towards adulthood.
God's kindness to us to like give us little tiny releases.
To give us 18 full years.
Okay.
And then some more.
The big one's coming. The big push is coming.
I know.
Yeah. I thought that was such a beautiful detail, like having King Triton come up at the end.
Yes.
And he's the one to send their boat.
Yes.
Like they're paddling, but then he sends it with his trident magic or whatever. It sends them. Like sends her into the life that she wants.
Okay, this is so cheesy, but in my head, like I was like, oh, he's being the wind in their wings. Like the wind in their sails. Because like, but as parents, we have that opportunity, right? Like we can either like push and blow and like we can support, or we can suck the joy and the life out of a situation.
Yes.
And
totally.
You know, your kids are going to fly the coop either way. I'd rather root for my kids.
Right. Yes.
I'd rather root for them and love them.
Yes. Than be like the one that's like they feel or perceive as not listening to them or doesn't understand them. Like I'm like, I don't know if there would be anything more heartbreaking than Joelle coming to me and be like, Mommy, you just don't get me.
Right. Or I don't feel like you're being supportive, or
you don't support me. Yeah.
Not coming to me because she
not even coming to you at all.
Yeah, like it would break my heart if my kids just chose not to come to me because we didn't have open communication and because they thought they knew what I would say.
Right.
Based off of years of living with me.
Yeah.
That they would be afraid of my reaction and that they would withhold from me.
Yeah.
Like,
we want to be a safe place for our kids.
I don't want that. Just like I know God wants me to come to him with everything, right?
Not like, oh, I know what he's going to say, so I'm not going to come to him. Like he knows it anyway, but
he knows it, but he wants
us to come.
He wants it all. Like he wants my fit when I'm mad about something,
right?
Or like when he tells me to do something, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about that, God. Is that really what you meant?
Like, instead of like running away and being like, oh, you told me to do something, but I don't want to do it. So I'm
right? He can handle it all.
Like I'm not going to talk to him.
I want my kids to know I can handle it all.
Yeah,
and I might not agree, and that's okay too.
Yeah. But you'll talk about it, you know, like what she says before she sings Part of Your World. She says, I just don't see things the way he does. I'm like, am I giving, you know, she's 3 right now, so she's still developing her worldview, obviously. She's little, but she will.
But by 3, kids already, what is the statistic? I'm going to mess it up. By 3, kids have already started forming their ideas about people who are different from them. Meaning by 3, kids have already started identifying like if somebody with a different color skin than them is good or bad.
Wow.
Like,
okay, that's important.
By 3,
that's crazy.
I think it starts at like 2 actually.
That's crazy.
I'll find the statistic and send it to you.
That's crazy.
But like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think like just early child psychology also I know early child psychology, like kids have kind of decided by 10 like how they think and view the world.
Wow.
Like
that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Which is kind of why I like teaching middle school, because it was like kind of the last little window to give a different opinion. Yeah. And not like try to change their worldview, but just like
challenge them.
Just give a different perspective.
Yeah. Let them think.
Right.
But that really made me think like, am I allowing her, or how do I continue to allow her to think differently than me? and still like prioritize relationship, you know, like okay, we think different about that. Let's talk about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for the little years at least, mom and dad are obviously, we say we're the boss or we're the authority, trusted with the responsibility to make the best decision for you. But letting that be okay, that we think different about it. Like, it's okay that you disagree with me. But this is still what we're going to do, because then when she gets older, hopefully we can have conversations and maybe not agree on everything. As long, you know, like there are, you know, obviously there are some things that's like truth, like, you know, being Christian, like we're like, okay, this is truth and that's not.
Right.
Or
like
this,
I follow Jesus because I believe that it is the truth.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
because if I don't believe that it's true, why would I do it?
Right. Why would we waste our time?
You know?
Yeah. Totally.
Like that has to be the very first thing. Like why are we Christians? Because it's the truth.
Because it's the truth. So like there are obviously like some non-negotiables like that, but like letting her have her own opinions and like making space for that, you know, like, you know, she said, I just don't see things the way he does because he had an opinion about what humans were like because he had one bad experience, which was valid.
Right.
That was a bad experience. It was valid.
I mean, it was more than a bad experience, but yes.
Yes. But you know what I mean? Like he, that you're right, Triton, that was horrible. But Ariel like somehow had the wisdom or the curiosity or the audacity to know or to think, wait a minute, not all humans are like that. Like we think differently about this. Yeah.
But there was also that from Eric's adopted mother.
Yep, she had the same thing.
Like he had this burning desire to like see what else was out there and what could they find to move their kingdom forward. And
it was different.
It was because the sea was tumultuous and kept taking their people and there were shipwrecks. She didn't want to lose him.
Right.
After she lost her husband at sea, right?
I think that's what they.
I think that's
what they said.
They slipped it in fast, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
What happened. Yeah.
So it's interesting that like both parents were had fear.
Yeah,
and
I mean they said something like she said something to Ariel at the end. She said, "Our worlds have misunderstood each other for far too long." Like she thanks Ariel for being this bridge of sorts, and I'm like, whoa, what a moment! Yeah, what a moment in time for like where we're at too. Right. You know, like. Our worlds have misunderstood each other for far too long because, throughout the whole movie, she was like, Eric, come on, like, just fall in line, bro.
Yeah, give it up and just stay here.
Just fall in line, like, you know, but he, like, and part of me wondered, too, is because, like, he was adopted, right? So he kind of, like, always maybe felt like this imposter syndrome of, maybe, of, like, do I fit in? Do I belong? Like, is this really where I belong? Like, not feeling like he doesn't really fit the role.
Sure.
And knew like there's something different and like there's a different way I want to go about this. There's a different way I want to go about this. And I have felt that at times. Like, why am I so different? Why can't I just fall in line? Like, why can't I just be what they want me to be? Like, why can't I just do it? And that thing in you, like, this is part of why watching Moana changed my life. Like, no joke. Because she's like, there's something in me that's different. And like, instead of like, you know, like, and you know, you saw that a little bit with Eric too. Like he just had a vision for how he wanted to do it. But his mom thought it was dangerous or his mom thought it was not right or whatever. And by the end of the movie, she comes around and it's one big happy family again. But it was just like every character I feel like had a really interesting journey. Like a really interesting like development.
So that just made me think too, like, is the outcome the important part or is the process of getting there the important part?
Ooh, yeah. Like what you learn.
While you're learning, like, is my way actually the right way? Like,
yeah.
I obviously have a reason I do it the way that I do it, but it's not the only way. Like, there's multiple ways to tie your shoes.
Right.
Right? But like, can you tie your shoe at the end of the day is the important question. If they don't, you know, like not all kids can loop, swoop, and pull or whatever.
I don't even know I don't even know what my parents taught. I think it was like, I think I did the bunny Like the bunny goes into the
it chases it around the
something like that.
I don't know, but then you can take both of the loops and do it too.
Right.
Anyway, all of that to say, like, I just feel like there are
what's the really gross saying? There's multiple ways to skin a cat.
Oh, yes.
I hate that
That's
saying.
such a gross saying.
I hate that saying.
I wonder what the etymology of that is, like how old that is. It's got to be.
I feel like there's someone in my life
feels
who
very
says it.
outdated.
I don't feel like it's my mom who says it. I don't remember. There's someone in my life who says it that every time they say it, I'm like, oh, that's so gross.
I haven't heard that in a minute, but
anyway.
Anyway, all of that to say, like, I think sometimes with parenting, like, we are looking for our kids to do things our exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, sure, when you're teaching your kids to clean up, they're not going to clean up like you do, and that's okay.
Right.
Or like the way,
or like in marriage. Hello, unmarried people.
Okay,
like,
have we talked
unloading
about
the dishwasher?
I was just about to bring the dishwasher up. In Sean and I's first year of marriage, Sean is my husband. I think some of our ugliest like fights, and it was true like fights, were over the stupid dishwasher and the way I loaded it versus the way he loaded it. Like he would load it and I wouldn't even realize that I was going back to reload it the proper way. And
you were just like, oh, it's wrong. So
it's wrong. So I'm going to fix it. And he felt so disrespected and like it didn't matter that he tried. And I felt so annoyed that he wouldn't just do it the right way.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had these knockdown dragouts about what the right way was and why it mattered if it was loaded and they were going to be clean. And I just laugh about that now, years later, 13 years later.
Yeah.
But I also think about that a lot of times with my kids. Like, am I criticizing the process and
the outcome's going to be the same
The outcome's going to be the same, or I'm killing the learning opportunity and any joy.
Right.
Because it's not my way or the highway.
Yep.
So
that's a really good check too, especially as Joelle's been getting more independent and wanting to do things on her own. That's like a daily thing. Like, oh, that's not how I would have done it.
Right.
And then like Holy Spirit being like, but is it wrong?
Right.
Like, just wait, just watch. Is what she's doing wrong? Is it dangerous or is it wrong?
Yeah.
And even if it is wrong, like if it's not going to work, like, just wait a minute.
That's a learning opportunity for her, though.
Like, don't like be the helicopter parent that's like rescuing from her ever like doing something. Like, oh, that's not going to work, babe. Like she's putting her shoes on the wrong feet. I'm like, you know what? She'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. Like she'll feel it, and she does. Instead of me being like having to do it for her all the time.
Right.
I'm like, she at a certain point she just needs to learn. And that's just like a really small example, but as she's getting more independent, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's different than how I would do it. Okay, but she'll, like just stepping back and being like, okay, it's fine.
Little Mermaid is a parenting movie.
Yes. That's
a takeaway.
What we're talking. That's yeah.
Yeah.
What was the other line? I think you and I I think I grabbed your arm at this point. Did you grab my arm or something? Like, you had a moment where she says to her dad at the very end, he comes up to say goodbye, which again.
Before he shoves the boat.
Before he shoves the boat, like he comes up, like, and I'm just like, he's prioritizing relationship, even though he does not want it that way. He's scared of humans. He comes up because he's prioritizing relationship, which I'm like, yes, let's prioritize relationship. But she says, thank you for hearing me. And he says, do you remember, like he said, you shouldn't have to give up your voice to be heard?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and hello. Okay. We didn't even talk about the fact that she stole her voice back.
She took it back with force.
Yes.
I think I fist pumped at that point.
I mean, but like how she said, thank you for hearing me. And I'm like, that was just I feel like you're a really good parent at hearing your kids and listening to them.
Thank you.
Like, you've taught me a lot about hearing your kids. Like, it's okay to hear what they're saying before you just, like, lay down the law.
Right.
And, like, you must obey. Like, what is she saying? Like, I've stopped, like, what is she actually saying? What does she need? Or what does she think she wants? And then responding from there instead of just being like, no, like, it has to be, like,
right.
Instead of tritening it, like how to like actually hear. And I just thought, I was like, wow. Yeah. So it's a parenting movie. Okay.
You shouldn't have to give up your voice to be heard.
Like she thought that was her only option to be heard, which I'm like, you know what?
But it was her only option.
Right.
Like, to do the thing that she felt she needed to do or she was supposed to do, right? Yeah. Like, her options were, like, die inside to live this other life.
Sebastian, or be miserable for the rest of your life.
Whatever. But, like, really, her options were, like...
Yeah, she didn't have any.
To just, like, be miserable and always wonder what if, or to try this thing out, but, like, totally outside of the lines. Like, she had to totally color outside of the lines.
It's like be yourself or conform.
Right. And there's no middle ground. And there's no middle ground. And there's no grace.
Yeah.
And so she did what she felt like she had to do to be seen and heard. Mm-hmm. Well, not heard, but, you know.
Yeah.
So she goes and... essentially
he
sells part of herself.
He heard her, even though he didn't hear her say it. He heard her
right.
Like, through her actions, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
And what... Also, we were just talking about him pushing the boat, you know, to go to the big boat so they could go and sail and discover together.
To uncharted waters.
Which is such a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah.
But also, I just really love the scene, like, when they're looking back and seeing the two kingdoms essentially united and, like, intermingled.
Yes. And intermingled and supporting them and just, like, yes.
I just thought that was a beautiful picture.
The gap, like, closed and bridged. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I know, like, and then the nostalgic music came up. And
not just them far out in the water, like, they were actually, like, close.
Yeah, on
like
shore.
The people and the mer people.
Like, some of the mermaids were on shore.
Yes.
Like, sitting on the beach.
Yes.
And, like, so they're very, like, interacting right now. Like, I have chills just thinking about it. Like, because then the nostalgic music came and it was just this really emotional moment. It was
beautiful.
And, yeah, just beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in to part 1 of my conversation with Becca about the live-action Little Mermaid. I promise you will want to stick around and listen to part 2 because there truly is just so much to unpack. So for now, I hope this part 1 conversation inspired you and touched your heart like it did ours. I hope it sparked a fire in you to check out this incredible movie. So go watch it now, today, with your family, and see what Jesus speaks to you about it. Then come right back here and check out part 2. See you soon.